Knowing his legendary greed, the Parthians chose a punishment tailored to his greatest vice. They forced his mouth open and poured molten gold down his throat. The searing metal burned through flesh and bone, silencing forever the man who once claimed no one was truly rich unless he could fund an army. At the heart of the Roman Empire, while Julius Caesar was conquering Gaul and Pompey was pushing Rome's reach eastward, another man was quietly forging his own path to greatness, not on the battlefield, but through wealth and ambition. His name was Marcus Licinius Crassus, a man whose rise would make him the richest Roman in history, and whose end would become one of its darkest legends. Born around 115 BCE into a noble Roman family, Crassus wasn't interested in military glory like his peers. From a young age, he displayed an extraordinary knack for business and a relentless hunger for wealth. While others sharpened their swords, he sharpened his instincts, fighting a different kind of war, one for property, gold, and political leverage. Born around 115 BCE into a noble Roman family, Crassus wasn't interested in military glory like his peers. From a young age, he displayed an extraordinary knack for business and a relentless hunger for wealth. While others sharpened their swords, he sharpened his instincts, fighting a different kind of war, one for property, gold, and political leverage. His breakthrough came during the infamous proscriptions of Sulla, when political enemies were marked for execution and their properties seized. Most saw chaos and tragedy. Crassus saw opportunity. He bought the confiscated estates of the condemned for pennies on the denarius, often pressuring terrified families desperate to survive. Vast fortunes changed hands into his. But Crassus's most infamous scheme was as bold as it was twisted. Rome's first fire brigade. The capital, built mostly of wood, was vulnerable to constant fires. Crassus organized 500 slaves, trained them not just to fight fires, but to profit from them. When flames erupted, his men rushed to the scene, not to help, but to negotiate. Crassus would offer to buy the burning property at an absurdly low price. If the owner agreed, the fire was put out. If not, the flames finished the job. Through such ruthless tactics, Crassus quickly gained control of much of Rome. His fortune was estimated at 200 million sesterces, worth billions today, but even that wasn't enough for him. No Roman is truly wealthy, he once declared, unless he can fund an army from his own purse. Crassus, the man who turned fire into fortune and fear into leverage, was just getting started. Though his name would one day be remembered for a chilling death, his story began not in blood, but in ambition, calculated, cold, and boundless. Despite his enormous wealth, Marcus Crassus carried a quiet burden, an unhealed wound no amount of gold could soothe. It was the ache of comparison. While Crassus amassed estates and silver, his rivals were amassing something far more prized in Rome: military glory. Pompey the Great had conquered distant provinces and earned triumphs. Julius Caesar's name echoed with the fame of his campaigns in Gaul. Crassus, though instrumental in crushing Spartacus's rebellion, remained a shadow in their glow. This imbalance gnawed at him. Like rust eating away at precious metal, envy corroded his soul. He possessed everything money could buy, except the one currency that truly mattered in Rome: glory earned in war.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us and helps us grow. A huge thank you to everyone who's been watching.
At the age of 60, when most men craved peace, Crassus yearned for immortality. His eyes turned east, toward the Parthian Empire, a land of immense wealth and formidable warriors covering what is now Iran and Iraq. The Parthians were famed not only for their treasure, but for their feared cavalry, cataphracts in heavy armor and archers who could shoot while retreating, a deadly maneuver later known as the Parthian shot. To Crassus, Parthia wasn't just a campaign. It was a chance to silence every whisper, to place his name beside Caesar and Pompey's in the annals of Roman greatness. Military triumph, political elevation, and even more riches. He saw them all glittering in the sun-drenched cities of the East. These stories ignited his imagination. Ambition turned into obsession. For Crassus, the march to Parthia would not be a mere war. It would be a final gamble for the one thing he had never been able to purchase: eternal glory. In 53 BCE, Marcus Crassus, blinded by ambition and deaf to warnings, set out on a campaign that would seal his fate. Ignoring ominous signs and even Rome's religious disapproval, he led 7 legions, about 40,000 men, eastward to conquer the Parthian Empire. From the very start, misfortune shadowed the expedition. During the departure ceremony, a priest disastrously reversed the traditional prayer, accidentally invoking curses instead of blessings. Crassus pressed on. But as his troops crossed the Euphrates River, a violent storm destroyed the bridge, killing many. Still, he refused to see these events as signs. As the army advanced deeper into Parthian territory, Crassus's overconfidence became his greatest weakness. He dismissed crucial military advice and rejected potential alliances. His son, Publius, an experienced commander who had served under Caesar, pleaded for caution. Crassus would not listen. Meanwhile, Parthian general Surena was watching. Young, brilliant, and well-resourced, Surena traveled with thousands. A mobile empire that included 1,000 camels for baggage, 200 carriages for his concubines, and an elite force of cataphracts and horse archers. The two forces finally met near the plains of Carrhae in modern-day Turkey. Crassus, obsessed with glory and gold, rejected defensive tactics and ordered an aggressive advance, against all advice. It was a catastrophe. The Parthians unleashed a brutal strategy. Mounted archers launched wave after wave of arrows, then swiftly retreated before the Romans could retaliate. The Roman legions, famed for discipline but built for close combat, were helpless on the open terrain. The arrows pierced armor, sowing panic and death. Desperate, Publius led a cavalry charge to break the siege. It was a fatal error. Isolated from the main force, he and his men were surrounded. After fierce fighting, wounded and cornered, Publius asked his shield-bearer to end his life rather than be captured. His head was severed and displayed on a spear. When the messengers brought Publius's head to Crassus, the psychological blow was devastating. The man who had once owned half of Rome now faced a loss no amount of gold could repay. The campaign was no longer about glory. It was the beginning of his ruin. With his army broken and surrounded, Crassus had no choice but to negotiate with the Parthian general, Surena. It was his final move. What happened next remains blurred by time, a mixture of fact and legend. According to Roman accounts, Crassus went to parley. But during the tense meeting, something went horribly wrong. Some say the Parthians tried to seize him by force. Others blame a tragic misunderstanding. In the chaos that followed, Crassus was killed, his dreams of glory silenced on foreign soil. Then came the moment that transformed his end into myth. The Parthians, fully aware of Crassus's insatiable greed, chose to give him a fitting punishment. As Roman historians Plutarch and Cassius Dio later wrote, the victors poured molten gold down his throat, sneering, "You have thirsted for gold, now drink it." That image burned into Roman memory, a man consumed by wealth, ultimately killed by it. The symbolism was unmistakable. Crassus had built an empire of coin and cunning, but met his end in the very substance he worshipped. And yet we must pause. Did this gruesome fate truly happen? Or was it invented to poeticize a man who embodied greed? Historical truth becomes slippery with time. Plutarch wrote his biography of Crassus nearly 2 centuries after the event. Dio came even later, neither witnessed it. And similar stories appear across cultures, most notably a tale of King Croesus of Lydia, also executed with molten gold. Such legends may be more folklore than fact. Modern historians argue Crassus was more likely killed in the negotiation or executed by beheading, as was customary for enemies of Parthia. His head was reportedly sent to King Orestes II, who, in a chilling touch of theater, received it while watching a play by Euripides. So why does the gold story endure? Because it completes the arc too perfectly. Romans loved poetic justice, fates that matched a man's greatest flaw. Whether true or apocryphal, the tale of Crassus's golden death served as a powerful warning. Wealth cannot shield you from the consequences of unchecked ambition. His legacy became not one of triumph, but of tragic irony, forever remembered as the man who died with molten gold in his mouth. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like or share it with others. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel grow. Feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts on the story. Thank you so much for your quiet support. The consequences of Crassus's doomed campaign were nothing short of catastrophic. Rome suffered a staggering loss. Around 20,000 legionaries were killed, and another 10,000 were captured, later resettled by the Parthians on the far reaches of their empire. Even more humiliating, the Parthians seized the legionary eagles, sacred emblems of Roman military honor. Their capture scarred Rome's pride for decades until Emperor Augustus finally negotiated their return. Politically, Crassus's death shattered the fragile balance of power. He had been the third pillar of the first triumvirate, the silent force mediating between Caesar and Pompey. With him gone, that tension erupted into civil war.
one that would destroy the Roman Republic and reshape the course of history. For the Parthians, the victory at Carrhae was a defining triumph. It cemented their image as a near-invincible force. No Roman general would achieve a decisive victory against them until Emperor Trajan, nearly 170 years later. Crassus's story, however, resonates far beyond military defeat. It offers a sobering reflection on ambition, hubris, and the limits of wealth. He had everything a man could buy, except what he craved most, immortal glory, and in seeking it, he lost everything. Crassus's story, however, resonates far beyond military defeat. It offers a sobering reflection on ambition, hubris, and the limits of wealth. He had everything a man could buy, except what he craved most, immortal glory, and in seeking it, he lost everything. Ironically, Crassus achieved immortality, not as a conqueror, but as a cautionary tale. The legend of his death by molten gold, if true, would be poetic justice of the highest order. A man so obsessed with wealth, killed by the very thing he worshipped. And even if the tale is false, its endurance says something profound about us. We long to believe that life punishes our greatest sins in fitting fashion. And so the richest man in Rome didn't earn eternal fame for his fortune, but for the bitter golden end that turned him into a moral legend. Did Crassus truly die with gold poured down his throat? Perhaps not. But what matters is what the story came to represent, the tragic cost of unchecked ambition and greed. In Rome, it was said that every man had his price. Crassus, who knew the price of everything, learned too late the value of things money cannot buy: wisdom, restraint, and a dignified death.